Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to go over the variant guide Series 0 for the new game Deadrop. The variant guide was released on Friday, July 29th, and it is an accompanying document to the Deadrop snapshot that was released as well. And that's what we're going to dive into today. The first page of the guide really sets the tone for the game itself. The game is set 40 years of the climate wars. Population and pollution levels have skyrocketed, and cities have erected massive refiner states. These are mega structures that are built to extract toxins from the stratosphere. So the main export for these is the space dust, also known as dust, and these buildings are ran by the cleaners. And this page kind of really gives us an idea of what the game is going to be about and kind of the factions of it. It starts talking about the skins and the sins. The skins are humans and the sins are synthetic humans. So it looks like both factions are going to fight against each other as well as the cleaners who operate this refiner state. And I think this is where the PvPvE really comes into focus. The skins and the sins are the P and P, with the existing enemy force being the cleaners. It sounds like the space dust, or dust as they're calling it here, is going to be one of the main factors in the economy. The refiner states are going to set the backdrop to getting resources and gear. It sounds like that's where the runs will be done. And you also have player hideouts throughout the city. This page says a lot. This starts really setting the tone and the scenes for what is to come, and I'm curious to see what will come into further snapshots as we get more refined looks at the game and as it gets closer and closer to eventually being released. The next page is a letter from Robert Bowling. He is the studio head for Midnight Society. And this is where he starts talking about some of the goals and objectives they have from these snapshots, which are playable experiences, as he puts it. With each snapshot, they're looking for specific parts of the game that they need feedback on, whether it's from gunplay, player abilities, the spaces themselves, different features they're going to add into it. So I think that this will set this game apart from some of the other games that we play, in that they're looking for that player feedback so much earlier on in the development process versus waiting till after it's launched. I think they're actually trying to truly make a game for the players and not just what the studio thinks the players want. I think they took a look at what was out there, what was around, and that's where you get some of the PvP aspects of it, the battle royales from their combined experiences in games like Halo and Call of Duty. But then you throw in the V element, so it's going to be a very interesting thing once they get closer and we start to get into some of the PvP experiences with it. The next page starts to explain more about Midnight Society themselves. And it has the 4 co-founders of Midnight Society, starts giving a little bit of their background between Call of Duty, Halo, Epic Games, the different game developments history they have, and kind of what their goal is. And one of the cool things is their Day Zero community that they talked about with the Founders Pass. They were going to release 10,000 Founders Passes. That was the initial release. And so they set up applications for it. Over 400,000 people applied for these passes. Luckily, I don't entirely know how, but I ended up being able to get one of these Founders Passes, which was able to make me part of this community. Be able to get these snapshot builds, get that feedback to it. And that's something I'm really looking forward to, is to make a game that players want. They also talk more about what they're working on with the Deadrop game, and then Unreal Engine 5, which is going to be pretty interesting. So far, it's running pretty well. There is some frame rate things, but overall, I was very happy with the demo on that. I've got a live stream up, actually, where I played it for the better part of an hour. So if you want to check out some of that gameplay, I would go check out that live stream VOD that's up. Gives my first initial reactions and everything else, first time seeing the game. What they do on the next page here is start to go through who else is part of Midnight Society. The other cool part about this is the Discord that they have. A lot of these different people are involved. I've had conversations with some of them on Twitter even, or talking to some in Discord to the devs, and they're just very responsive, very attuned to what players are wanting, and they're just, the feedback and the conversations there are really great. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that as we go through. The next thing they do is they start talking about the ARG, which is kind of like an action roleplay game. This was a text-based game that you could do with the Midnight Protocol bot inside the Discord group. But what actually started out was, this was back in January, the first group of people who joined the Discord or followed early on, they they started following the clues. From those clues, they started to work their way through the game. The real cool part about this was the first 500 people who completed this ARG were actually airdropped a pass. So they got a Founder's Pass guaranteed right away early on, which is something really cool to see. I wasn't part of that, but I went through and played through it as soon as I joined the Discord or before I started to apply it. That's where you start really building even some of this framework for what's going to end up being a vertical extraction shooter they're talking about. So I found that to be pretty interesting. So on this page, they start talking about the breakdown of the variant and what they are. So in this world, the areas outside of the refiner states was really uninhabitable, and so they had different rebreathing helmets that let you kind of filter the air, and that's where they were then used by the combatants. They were retrofitted, and this is where you start getting into the visor cortex. So each one is very unique to the player. And so part of the variance was when you got the Founder's Pass, you got your variant, which was a unique visor cortex along with a anonymous one-of-a-kind call sign. So this kind of gets into the first tier of players that are going to be there, start setting the stage for what they think the players are going to want to do, and just give the overall feel to the theme that they're going for. The next page starts kind of giving some world layout and talk about the existence, which is the totality of the universe, if you will. So it's all the claws, the variants, the ember, the eyes, and different contributions that they're making to the Deadrop world. The next page is a nice clean version of the cover image of a variant, it looks like. Visor Cortex, rainy, dark, and of course, they've got the prototype rifle in his hand. The next page shows a corresponding green space associated with the tower. Nothing crazy here. There might be something hidden within these side panels, but those have to be deciphered a little bit more. So on the next page, we see the Hideout. This is the space we walk into when we first start playing the snapshot. In this, you have a weapons bench, and you have the first prototype classified rifle that you get to use during the firing ranges. Off to the side, you have a door that's blocked off by a access denied code panel, so we can't get into that right now. During the live stream of the LA event, they talked about a little bit more of what this space could be, what it could turn into. This is a space where you had to add your attachments. You have your different guns you use. You also maybe have a vault with it, and how this evolves over time. So right now it is just, a basic workbench with your one weapon on it. But how does that evolve as we go through the snapshots or even get into the game and what the final version looks like? Realistically, what I see the Hideout is kind of where you decide to kit up and where you get all your gear and then prepare to go out into the world or go to the refiner state to either do some PvP or PvE action. I think the weapons bench here is where you're gonna really do all your attachments, you're fine-tuning. It really depends on how detailed they go with those systems. Call of Duty, you can add a whole bunch of attachments, but in this, maybe it'll be something different. Maybe it'll be similar to that, where you have, a variety of options per weapon. They each do different things, and maybe that'll have a variety of metas versus, say, a Call of Duty where these specific 3 or 4 things give you the overall advantage versus this where now you can fine-tweak them to exactly what you want it to be, and there's no real OP meta one way or the other. Next up, we have the firing range, and this is the outdoor firing range, which was the end segment of the snapshot. So what you have is you have an upper portion when you walk right out there, and that's where you can have your long distance targets. You work on maybe the shadows a little bit more. First go around, I missed that, went back and played through it a little bit more, and I found it. And so what that has is, like I said, the medium, longer range distances. You get to play with ranges a little bit more. Right now, they just have iron sights on the rifle, so you can complete it, but it would be helpful if there's an optic for it. That way you can target acquisition a little bit better and get your shots a little bit more where you want them. You can also take the elevator down, and when you go down, now you're at a walking through, kind of like a kill house. In the kill house, you work your way through probably a 60-second or less range with pop-up targets as you move through. They're all, for the most part, stationary. You end up working your way through the firing range, and you end up at a gate, and this gate goes out to that helipad, but unfortunately that's where you can't get access to right now either. So I see that being a future area. Maybe you land a helicopter here, that's how you get inserted. So you're at your hideout, which is kind of like your safe area, then you go and you can land a helicopter there at your own safe hideout, or you could get in one, and that's how you go to the refiner state. The refiner state is in the background there. So I think this this will be definitely used more, especially when you get more weapons involved. That way you can do your close quarter combat stuff, or if you want a ranged weapon for a little bit more distance. Then you start to get that vertical extraction part, like the vertical extraction shooter part, where now you've got multiple levels. You have up, you have down, you have to look, there's the angles, and so it really starts to bring in the height difference and make that a very key aspect of the combat, I think, in the future here. So positioning, I think, will be key. Your angles, your shots. One of the things that they talk about again in that live stream was with Unreal Engine 5, you have chaos physics with it, but that leads to a more destructible environment, and so now there was talks of destructibility potentially being involved. I saw discussions of that between people not wanting any destructibility and people wanting full destructibility, and some of those things made sense. One person pointed out that, you know, you should be able to take explosives and blow a hole through a floor to create a new entrance that way. One of the other interesting talking points was cover. Do you have cover points that are a little bit destructible or a lot? I think it would be very interesting to see them take the different covers based off material type. The different covers would destroy at different rates. They'd be more penetrable by different rounds. Like if you were behind like a wood box or a wooden shipping crate, some bullets wouldn't necessarily go through, some would, and over time that would break down. I think that gets rid of static gunfights. It forces people to move through the gunfights. So it'd be very interesting to see how they incorporate that as we go. One of the cool things they also included on this was some early behind the scenes layout work, and this is actually some of the stuff that they released on Twitter leading up to this release. They had the elevator where you came off, where you go to the weapons bench, and then you go to the indoor firing range. They also had the initial concept of the firing range where you push a button, you start, you engage with some QCB targets, and then also they have some more weapons bench stuff. I think that's pretty cool to see some what the initial concepts were and just some of the thought process they put in when they start doing these layouts. Next, they showed the garage. There's a lot actually here to take in. You kind of see they have, you know, a car here. They've got an engine on a hoist or a lift. They've got different tires, different rims, different lighting, different options. This portrays, at least in my opinion, okay, there's going to be vehicles you can drive now. So with these vehicles, what are the customization options going to be? Can you up armor them? Can you protect them more? How does this all play into what kind of becomes this part of the game? Clearly, it's still a concept because it's not in this build yet. They haven't explained too much out of it, but it looks like it's going to be coming up. Because what they do also on this page is give you a coded message. Now on the next page, they give you the way to decipher it. So they give you the key to the cipher, but then you have to go back and do that yourself, which I've done here. So the message itself says interior range keypad override, access denied, password required, garage bay restricted, vehicle modification systems disabled, parts accessories removed from database, September 2nd changeless reserved, claw combat protocol reinitiation training required, variants prepare yourself. So what this message tells me is that there is going to be vehicle modifications. They haven't added it yet. September 2nd is going to be when maybe they release a next message or release more information about the upcoming snapshot. Also with claw combat, maybe that's where we get into or near our first PvP experience with this. So I think there's a lot to take in with it. There's a lot to kind of think over, discuss. What would be cool to do with it? What wouldn't be cool to do with it? I think there's a lot of potential here, and I'm really excited to see what kind of comes out of that in the future. And also, what do you think would be cool here to be? Also, what do you think would be cool to see here? What would be cool to incorporate with this game? We know there's going to be weapon modifications, but now what kind of vehicle modification system should there be? If you've got an opinion on either one of those, go ahead and drop a comment down below. And let's start a discussion on it, because that was the point of the whole variance and the founders passes, were to start discussions on this. In that letter from Robert Bowling, they basically say, as founder pass holders, you have almost free range to make whatever content around this. So they want to use those founders, those variants, the 10,000 people, the bulk of it that are, or the a percentage of content creators. They want them to get this out there, see it, what kind of feedback on it. So yeah, go ahead, drop a comment down below. Let's talk about it. I'd be curious to see what your guys' opinions on it are. From there, we have the appendix, which goes over just the different definitions that they use throughout this, the clause, mercenaries that take on contracts or gigs within the refiner states, personal gains or behalf of others, cleaners, again, assuming those are going to be the NPCs of the refiner states, the climate wars, which is what led up to this, the codex operandi, which is the cipher that they use to do these different communications. Embers are going to be weapon manufacturers, modders, crafters for hire, so maybe that'll be some of the in-game economy part of it. The existence is all of the Midnight Society reality. The eyes are guild leadership and members enlisting embers into the expansion of the existence. That one, I don't know what exactly it's going to be, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it, to see the guild system they put in place. Refiner states are assumed to be the play area. Skins are human combatants of any faction. Space dust or dust is the concentrated extract. It has a high value amongst organized crime circles, so that's going to be playing part of the in-game economy. A sin is a synthetic combatant. A variant is a exclusive subculture clause, so this is the 10,000 people that they talked about. Vertical extraction shooter is VES is a term used by clause that describe combat within the refiner states. So that's where it's a mix of your typical arena shooter, battle royale, and other extraction-based shooters. The visor cortex is a unique display, and the sector is a self-contained area within the refiner state. So I think those are going to be different play levels within the towers that probably will be able to be taken control by the different guilds, but once again, we'll see as more gets released. I'm really looking forward to that. And finally, we end with two more variants holding the classified rifle from the first snapshot, again in a nighttime setting, rainy, outside some high-rise buildings. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what becomes of this game. And as always, if you like what you see, drop a like. As this progresses, I'll for sure be making more content with it. If you don't want to miss out on it, don't forget to subscribe as well. Some of the other games I've been playing right now, as of this moment, we do a lot of Ark Survival Evolved on streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are also starting 7 Days to Die, starting on Tuesday nights. Yes, as always, like and subscribe if you like what you see here and you don't want to miss out on any more. Also, any point along the way, if you want to start discussing what was in this variant guide, drop a comment down below and I'll respond to them as I can. And as always, thanks for watching.